Dynamite opens to huge pyro and the theme song as JR goes on to say, we are live from a jam-packed Santander Arena for yet another episode of AEW Dynamite. We're just 1 week out from Halloween Havoc and things are getting scary good at the moment. You're right about that, JR, because tonight, after they debuted last week, Victor and Connor will be in action tonight again, but against those that they teamed up with in the Butcher and the Blade. Plus, we'll also hear from FTR. Also last week, Cody confirmed that at Halloween Havoc he will step into the ring against the Machine Brian Cage. If Cage wins, he stays in AEW. We'll hear how Cody has been progressing later tonight. I also quickly want to mention before we crack on with the show tonight, Private Party must answer to Death Triangle's demands. It's quite serious with the video that we saw last week. Then Jon Moxley's music goes on to play to open up this week's episode of Dynamite in front of 6,697,000 fans in the arena. So Jon Moxley steps into the ring looking ready to compete, but he has a mic in hand. And he goes on to say, I'm not going to waste anybody's time here. Last week, yeah, I accepted MJF's challenge to face Wardlow at Halloween Havoc. Yeah, the dude is big, quite a force, quite the imposing guy, but guess what? I've done nothing but face big guys, big characters in this business. End of the day, there was only ever one man that was left standing. Me, your AEW World. Mox gets cut off as Shawn Spears slides in quickly and attacks him from behind, then trades fists. Referees fill the ring to try and separate them both, and Mox picks the mic back up and he goes on to say, son of a bitch, you hit hard. You're clearly butthurt after what happened to you last week, Shawn. I say we dance again. Right now. Come on, let's make this official. Aubrey Edwards puts a finger to her ear and gets given the go-ahead. This segment getting 81. We're getting off to a flying start here on this week's episode of Dynamite. Of course, last week we saw Moxley against Shawn Spears in the main event. Now they're opening up this week's show with another classic, a 75 rating. It's Moxley that goes over again on Shawn Spears in 12:32 this time with a surprise roll-up. Moxley with an 89. Spears with a 49 in ring. Aubrey Edwards, the referee, of course. Moxley, everything's just shining for him at the moment. He is our AEW World Champion, of course. Would have been awful to have Spears go over in this opening match. But we move into the next segment. After the match, Wardlow slides into the ring. Mox turns around, but it's too late. Wardlow nails him with a devastating clothesline, almost turning him inside out. MJF is stood on the ring apron directing traffic. Both Wardlow and Spears are laying into the world champion, and Wardlow eventually lifts Moxley up onto his shoulders and hits the F10. MJF, with a smirk on his face, slowly steps into the ring, looking confident. He goes over to Mox and covers him. Spears mocks a ref and counts to 3. MJF stands tall over Mox, holding the world championship. But that gets cut short as both Matt and Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks, come running out. MJF, Wardlow and Spears exit. Matt picks up a mic. Hey Maxwell, we haven't got anything to do tonight. How about you face us, the best tag team in the world, against yourself and Mr. Car Crash there? MJF is irate and accepts the Young Bucks versus MJF and Wardlow later tonight. So an explosive start to this week's episode of Dynamite. Gets a 75, so we start with an 81, then a 74, then a 75. It's fantastic, and of course we've got that dynamic of MJF, Shawn Spears and Wardlow. Could be pointing towards something in the future. We'll have to wait and see. But let's have a look then at tonight's card. We'll see Victor and Connor in action once again tonight, after they teamed up with the Butcher and Blade last week. Also, the AEW Women's Championship is on the line. Hikaru Shida set to defend it against the Beast, Nyla Rose. Also, Private Party will have to answer to Death Triangle's demands last week, as they had Hangman Page as a hostage. And also, The Sex Gods, Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara, will be in action. And up next, Cody is at home, and we're going to hear from him right now. A video package is played of Cody training in his own personal gym at home. He takes time to talk to the camera. Halloween Havoc is such an iconic pay-per-view. It's well recognised and well remembered. Many stars have competed at Halloween Havoc. Many have won and many have lost. Dreams coming true and memories made. Next week will be no different. New memories will be made, just like they were last month at All Out. CM Punk's arrival in AEW has been, well, pretty turbulent. The great return. The return everyone in the wrestling world has been waiting for. You think he was ready to step into the ring once again, but we all know he isn't capable of going more than 2 minutes anymore. So he brings in the machine Brian Cage to do his dirty work. The man in the middle. After last week's revelation, it'll be a surprise if Cage even turns up for Punk. And JR says, we'll check in with Cody a little later. So we know that Cody is at home at the moment, taking time away from being here on Dynamite. Probably should have took off the announcers for this segment, but we've still got a strong 81 for this promo from Cody. He's just so good when doing these type of segments, these angles on Dynamite. You can always rely on Cody, and you better believe I'm going to be abusing it. So we're going to be seeing and hearing from Cody a bit later on, but we roll into our next match of the evening between Victor and Connor and the Butcher and the Blade, who kind of fell out after their 8-man tag against the Young Bucks last week. And it's the Butcher and the Blade that go over. They defeat Victor and Connor in 12:03, and well, it's really poor from Victor and Connor again, isn't it? Pretty vocal crowd. I think, yeah, it's going to be ruthless, but I think that's going to be it. I think they're going to face the axe now here in AEW. I don't really have much else for them, and I don't really feel like persevering. And it's a shame because I used to love their work in NXT as the Ascension, but I don't think AEW is for them. As we move into our next segment, it's a Halloween Havoc promo. We need to fit these in. It's in a week's time. Really looking forward to putting this one together for you guys. Our second pay-per-view in this series. It's going to feature stars such as Kenny Omega, Nick and Matt, the Young Bucks. It's going to be great. And then we move in to the AEW Women's Championship match between Hikaru Shida putting a title on the line against Nyla Rose, who she defeated back at All Out for this title. So it's a rematch. Nyla Rose looking to recapture the gold that she lost, and she can't do that as Hikaru Shida beats her for a second time in a row. And it was a fast roll up. Couldn't really see Shida lifting Nyla Rose up for that Falcon Arrow. Nyla Rose did dominate throughout. It was a story of seeing Shida struggle, but still managing to overcome the beast Nyla Rose. This got a 38. I was expecting up into the 40s, but after that we move into the next segment. After the match, Hikaru Shida is in the ring hugging her title tight after overcoming the beast Nyla Rose again to retain. At the top of the entranceway, Allysin Kay comes out with a mic and Marty Bell is alongside her. She goes on to say, "A round of applause everyone for Shida. She scrapes a title defense. No offense, Shida honey, but you're just not champion material. It's clear you're already struggling to keep hold of that title. Let me help." She gets cut off by Toni Storm, who joins her at the top of the entranceway. She also has a mic. "Allysin, shut up. Shida is one of the finest competitors in women's wrestling today. That's something you'll never be. So I can't see how you can possibly help her. You'd hinder her if anything. At Halloween Havoc, I'm going to take great pleasure and great delight in throwing you and your chum there over the top rope to become the #1 contender." And Sarah Rowe can be heard shouting, "Excuse me." She's seen stood in the crowd. She's standing there with a mic and she goes on to say, "I think you're all forgetting about little old me. I have been set free. I know what I have to do now, Tony. I pushed you to your limits last week and I'm prepared to do the same at Halloween Havoc." And then Britt Baker walks out the entranceway, joining Allysin Kay, Marty Bell and Toni Storm. No. All you entitled bitches need to zip it. You all need to realise that if anyone is winning at Halloween Havoc, it's me. I've been here since day one. I've worked harder than all of you put together. Did you know I'm a fully qualified dentist as well? My schedule alone walks all over each and every one of yours, even the champions. And then all of a sudden, running out from the back is Kris Statlander. She boops everyone on the nose, then runs down to ringside, boops Sarah Rowe, then slides in the ring and boops Shida. There is a tussle at the top of the entranceway, pushing and shoving, which moves to the back. Bit of disagreement here and there. Sarah Rowe smirks and then walks out, leaving Shida and Kris Statlander, and they shake hands and hug in the ring. This got a 44, really impressed with that. Happy with that number, as Sarah Rowe is getting better at her gimmick. Really do need to change that from Crazy Mary Dobson. We need to move away from that character. But next, look at this, an 86 as we move into the next promo with Cody. We're with Cody once again, who steps away from his weights. Pharaoh is walking around in the background, and he goes on to say, I like to think that me and Punk are similar people. We've both had our disagreements with various beings in this chaotic world that is pro wrestling. We've had our fallouts, sure, but what you get with Punk is one of the finest minds, one of the finest tongues, one of the finest performers in all of pro wrestling. Say what you will, but when Punk sat on that stage, he proved everyone wrong. People deserve a chance to show what they can do. We were willing to do that here in AEW for Phil, and look what he did. We've wanted to work with him for so long, and look at how he repays us. At Halloween Havoc, Punk, I'll face Cage. No sweat. I'm not hiding. I'm not afraid. But know this. After I win, you will face me. You will step into the ring once again, so that we can bury this and maybe, just maybe, we'll give you another chance. Cody goes back to his weightlifting, so an 86. So obviously I remembered to take off the announcers for this segment. Imagine if I'd done that for the first segment, we probably would have got two 86s for Cody. Would have been something special, but an 86 anyway. Probably one of the best promos we've segment rating promos that we've had in this series, I think. And then we get a little graphic next week on Dynamite before Halloween Havoc. Brian Cage will be in action with CM Punk in his corner. Another unsanctioned match. Obviously, he's not an official member of the AEW roster yet. So that's one to watch out for. As in our next match, it's Le Sex Gods in action against the Superbad Death Squad in Kip Sabian and Jimmy Havoc. And it's Le Sex Gods that defeat Superbad Death Squad in 1455 when Jericho pinned Havoc after a Judas effect. And look at Havoc with his in-ring performance of 72. I would never have thought that. A 72 for Jimmy Havoc. He was the best performer in this match. And it got the crowd buzzing as well. We'll have a look at the dirt sheet quickly. There was, it got penalised as well for the odd face-heel combination, but that doesn't really matter too much here in AEW. It is quite relaxed for that. As we move into our next segment, after the match, the Sex Gods are celebrating. You can imagine how this went down when all of a sudden the lights in the arena go out. Then the sound of a drone can be heard. It flies in and then unleashes a beacon of light focusing on Jericho and Guevara beneath. A hologram plays It's Broken, Matt Hardy. Last week there was an incident regarding this vessel that is Matt Hardy. It involved you, Chris Jericho, a hole of the ass. It was pure savagery, the likes of which I've seen before in all 3,000 years of my life. I have documented these moments in time and have learned and have become better. I am a master in chaos, violence and brutality. Now I know you are set to undertake a battle within the squared ring of ropes with Master Darby Allin at Halloween Havoc, but I offer you the opportunity to face me, Damascus, next week on the show Dynamite. Chris Jericho, even without a mic, can be heard shouting, Hardy, you son of a bitch, let's do it. He and Sammy tried jumping to grab the new and improved Vanguard 1, then it's gone. So we get a 73 for this segment, and we're going to find out who comes out on top between Jericho and Matt Hardy after Halloween Havoc here on AEW Dynamite. Should be an interesting one, that, as we move into our next segment. And it's Private Party's answer. Isaiah Cassidy and Mark Quinn are outside in the parking lot waiting for Death Triangle to show up. Cassidy, where the hell are they? It takes a while, but Death Triangle finally show up in a black van which Pac is driving. The sliding door opens and Pentagon Jr. and Rey Fenix step out with Hangman, who has a hood over his head. Isaiah Cassidy, okay, look, we accept. We'll put our number one contendership on the line against Pentagon and Rey at Halloween Havoc. Just let Page go. Behind the wheel, Pac smirks, then out of nowhere, Rey Fenix hits Page with a running high kick, similar to the one that he did with Orange Cassidy in real life. They quickly get in the van and close the sliding door with the window down, and Pac goes on to say, as I say, Death Triangle will always get what we want. We'll see you at Halloween Havoc. We get a 59 for this as Private Party go to the aid of Hangman Page, who's finally been released. And then up next, Tony Schiavone is sat facing Dax Hardwood and Cash Wheeler FTR, and he goes on to say, gentlemen, it's been a few weeks now since you arrived here in AEW. The obvious question being is why? Why turn on the Butcher and the Blade after it's Look, the Butcher and the Blade, they're mean son of a bitches. But joining them wasn't for us, and we're not here to make friends. We're here to prove that we're the best tag team in the world. Nick and Matt have been allowed to swagger around for too long thinking that they're the greatest tag team to grace this sport. They haven't met us yet. So, you're not here for the tag team titles, just the Young Bucks? Oh, we're here for the tag team titles, just not yet. We have something to prove first. That we're the best. We want the Bucks at full gear, and we want them at 100%, so we'll do everything we can to make sure that happens before we turn our attention to those beautiful tag titles. Gentlemen, thank you for your time. So that calls an end to the interview with FTR and why they're here in AEW. And we get just a 55 for that segment. And I'm happy with that because I know FTR, when they eventually step in the ring with the Young Bucks at full gear, it's going to be something special. And speaking of the Young Bucks, they are in action for tonight's main event against MJF and Wardlow, which was made earlier this evening. And it's the Young Bucks that pick up the win. Nick Jackson with a quick roll-up on Wardlow was never going to have MJF get pinned in this match. It just wouldn't make sense. And look at that, an 84 and an 82 in-ring performance for the Bucks. Wardlow with a 41, Matt and Nick Jackson, that tag team specialist bonus, bumping things up, got the crowd hot to this match. It's a strong 74 for tonight's main event, so really happy with that. Have a quick look at the dirt sheet, what the negatives, if there are any. It'd probably be Wardlow. Yeah, it's Wardlow being penalised for holding back. MJF holding back as well, and Wardlow was inexperienced, but that's okay. Wardlow, give him time, he'll be able to iron that out. I've got confidence in him in doing so. So 74, again, really happy in this. Oh, this is really good. An 83 for this segment. After the match, Wardlow is irate. He is pissed that Nick just got the pin. He and MJF decide to attack the Young Bucks, but they fight back. It's evenly matched. It's chaotic. And then Jon Moxley comes running down the entranceway and slides into the ring with a steel chair in hand. MJF and Wardlow notice this and escape quickly. MJF is shouting and swearing at Mox. Mox calls for a mic and says, "Hey Wardlow, get your little bitch to shut his mouth and let us adults do the talking. You want me at Halloween Havoc? You got it. But why don't we up the ante, huh? You and me in a steel cage. Let's cut out all this outside interference crap. Let us two collide in some beautiful chaotic violence. You want war? This is war. See you in a week." Wardlow is nodding as MJF looks stunned and unsure as they both make their way up the entranceway as this week's Dynamite comes to a close. A huge 83 for this segment. Wardlow looked lost out there. That's disappointing to see. But he does seem as though he's accepted Moxley's offer of turning their match at Halloween Havoc into a steel cage. And again, I forgot to turn commentary off for this segment. Obviously, having commentary on does or can affect the overall segment rating. But an 83, yeah, I'm not going to argue with that. An 83 is a fantastic way to end the show. And we get 78. A 78 overall rating for this week's episode of Dynamite. That's the best we've done yet. That's almost pay-per-view standards. That's fantastic. 78, and we've increased our popularity in 24 regions again. We had such a strong start to the show with Moxley and Spears number 2. Great opener. We saw Cody's promos. They were great. The women's division holding its own. And we had a strong end to the show, which saw the Young Bucks defeat MJF and Wardlow. So with a 78, I wonder how we've done with this week's Wednesday Night Wars against NXT. Let's find out. So it's currently 5-3 to NXT. Well, this week we got a 78 show rating. We got a 1.87 TV rating, getting a total of 1.4 million viewers. How did NXT do then? So we've beaten them on show rating. They got a 71 again. They had that last week, but we got a 78. We improved on last week's performance in our show, but they did get a 1.85. How are we going to gauge this? Are we going to gauge this through a total of viewers? If we are, then they've beaten us again this week. Or are we going to go through TV rating, whereas we've just beaten them on that with a 1.87, whereas they got a 1.85. How do we want to gauge this? I'm not sure, but if we're going by total viewers, which I have been doing, then they've beaten us again this week. That's probably because they're on various other TV channels, BT Sport, Fox 8, and of course the USA Network. So anyway, that is it for this episode. I do hope you guys have enjoyed. Make sure you join me for the Go Home show before Halloween Havoc. It's going to be a good one. But for now, thanks for watching.